This is the second video in the series, and in this video you can see how to add symbols with component data in your diagrams. Before we start making the motor control circuit, first a little basics about symbols and components. Symbols like this motor here is found in my pick menu or in my symbol menu. I think the easiest way to find symbols is by using the pick menu, so that's what I'm going to do here. I'll pick this motor here and I can place it in my diagram. Whenever I place a symbol like this, it pops up with a component data window saying -m. Minus is to indicate it's a product, M to indicate it's a type of component that adds an M to its name, and that is, for instance, a motor. If I add this one, I need to give it a name that is unique, and I could call it number 1, either by using the plus or simply pressing 1 or using the question mark. So that's possibilities I have in this window. And I just click OK. If I click one more, I could use a question mark this time, and the question mark will find the next available number in the M series, whereas the plus will simply count onto the next number. And that again means a difference, not in this project here, but it means a difference if you're making corrections in an old project. However, if I want to add a series of motors now, I wouldn't just keep pressing this question mark for the next available number, but I'll click the Control and question mark or Control and plus, and that means that they can count automatically, meaning that now I'll just press this one. Now it's -M3, and next one is -M4. So an automatic counting function is by clicking Control question mark or Control plus. That's one of the tricks that you should learn. Meaning now that I have 4 motors placed in my small diagram here. The motors as concerning names are okay, but my terminals have not been named yet, and when you talk about electrical documentation, you need to have terminal names on your symbols as well. I can add symbol names or terminal names by opening the window again, clicking this tab with the connections, and then I can go in and click U and a V and a W, because it's a motor and their terminals are called UV and W. And that will add the connection names. I could also go in this one and say, go back to this general tab and say, if I press a semicolon, I know that I'm referring or addressing my terminals in a component. You also recognize that probably from marking on components, meaning that M2:U means a terminal U on the component M2. And I can use that for typing in component terminal names here, meaning M2:U, V, W is a full address of my terminals for this M2. And if you do a lot of drawings, I think that might be a little bit faster. And that means that now I have this one with UVW and this one with UVW. That is sort of okay. By the way, I think it looks a little bit messy here, so we'll tidy that up a little bit. I can go in, mark them all, and in this window here I can right click and I can use the align or space command. Align will simply align, as you see, and I can zoom it a little bit, whereas if I right click here and say space instead, if I use my pointer here, my cursor here, and say I want this one right in my current path 1, reference 1, current path 1, and I have 40 millimeters between my current paths or between my reference lines here, I will put them all one by one in separate current paths. So now it looks a little bit more tidy. However, those 2 motors here, they still haven't got any terminal names, but I can find them. Just wait a second. Those 2 motors here, motor 1, motor 2. If you see the pop-up window here, I know nothing about those 2 components except from their names, motor M1 and motor M2. If I double click the window again, you can see I have space in here to add type and article number. If I add a type here and an article number, then I get type and article number in this one, and press all or press OK. now you see that the pop-up window contains a name and type and article number. This type and article number, they are component data that refers to a certain component that I can go out and buy somewhere. And if you go into this list here and update this list, you can see that now I have 3 components. I know not what they are, and I have got no clue whatsoever because I've got no article number, no type. But I have this one here. Click this one, you see I go directly to this one. And if I go to the component list, I'll just update that list too. You can see I have my M1, it's called article number and type. M2, 3 and 4, nothing. I know nothing about them. But M1, because I typed in some type and article data. If I go and say M2 is like M1, I can do it in 2 different ways. Open it, and I could go in and type once again, or I could press my used button here, the Sigma button, and say I have this ASAS, click, and then I get the same data here, OK and all. You see, type and article number are the same. However, if I look in my list, as you remember from before, I know nothing about manufacturer or supplier or what kind of motor it is or anything more than that. And that's a shame, because I have a component database with this program, and in the component database I can look up various components, and I can do that in different ways. One way is that if you have a project like this where you've started placing some symbols, you can use the symbols to look up in the database. And if we go and say this M3, double click that one, click the database button here, then you make the database look up for components that use exactly this symbol. And I think I want a 3-phase motor, 1.1 kilowatt, and all the PCS components, they are demo components, so this one is safe to take. Double click this one, you can see type, article name, press this one, and whoa, here it comes up. My connection points have been updated too, so now it's called UVW2. And I think I'll just do this one too. Database, click one of the others, type and article number is automatically put in here, click the all button, connection points are updated, and if I go to this one, you can see update the list. Now I have this one that I typed in before, 2 of those motors, but I've got 2 more, and for those last 2 motors I also know the manufacturer. If I go to the article data on this one, update list here, you can see that for M3 and M4 I've got article number, type, manufacturer, and description and position in my project. So all this data simply because I picked up the component from the database. Now back to the diagram here. Placing symbols in a way like this, that means that you should know the symbol that you want to use for a certain component, and maybe you don't do that always. Instead of that, you could go directly to the component database and say, okay, I'll look up in this database. So if you start clicking here, then you can go in and say, I want to have a motor from this group here, motors, pumps, and then you can see I have some different types of motors here. And this time I think I'll pick this one, because this was one of the motors I couldn't pick before. And this one, wow, it comes with a PE terminal, and this is really what you get from the database, because if you see the difference between these 2 symbols here, the motor M4 is without the PE terminal, motor M5 is with the PE terminal, and a lot of motors have the PE terminal, and it should be included in the symbol when you pick the component. So instead of picking components based on symbols that you think that you're going to use, instead go to the database and make the database think for you and let it pick you the right symbols based on the article number. That's the reason why you should use that one. It also gives you certainty that you get the correct symbols. So that's how to place symbols in your project.